Hello, welcome to Local Eats. I'm Mark McDonald outside Ashland, Illinois at the Oak Tree Organic Farm. And during this program, we're going to meet the owner of this farm, Chad Wallace, and talk to some of the professionals at Lincoln Land Community College's Culinary Arts program to find out more about organic farming, about the community aspect of it, the environmental aspect of it, and of course, how good it tastes and how affordable it can be. And Chad Wallace, you and your family have been on this plot of ground for a long time, but you yourself have actually been an organic farmer not all that long, right?
That's correct.
How long?
About just the last 8 years.
The last 8 years. You've grown up a pretty nice little business here, haven't you?
We've worked on it pretty hard, that's for sure.
Yeah. It was a family farm growing row crops and beans and corn like most people in this part of the country. Your parents are elderly now, so they don't want to do that anymore, and you still have retained some of the property in the family for this organic farm. Why did you choose organic farming?
We knew that we wanted to raise food. We knew that when my dad had a garden, you know, he'd never used chemicals, so we knew it was possible. Mm-hmm. I'd seen a lot of literature on the fact that the government was changing the way that food was being canned and the way it was being processed and packaged, and so I thought, well, if we're going to do this, we need to do this organically from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And that was our original idea. It was just to begin that way and stay that way.
Now, during the course of this program, you're going to get a chance to point out to us some of the finer points of organic growing and how it differs from the regular conventional farming. But if you could just really quickly, what's the difference between organic and conventional farming?
Organic and conventional would be there's no pesticides used, no chemicals of any kind. The varieties are open pollinated, heirloom, no GMOs.
What's that?
Genetically modified.
Okay, and that's the feed you're talking about.
That's a plant or a seed that has been genetically changed, like a hybrid.
Okay,
like
all right. So the seeds that you plant have not been genetically changed.
Genetically changed,
gotcha.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
And you do vegetables as well as some livestock.
Some livestock. Okay. And some fruit.
And some fruit.
Yeah.
Okay, and you'll show us all that.
Yeah.
Let's get the lay of the land here on this farm. I mentioned that we're about 7 miles outside of Ashland.
That's right.
Okay, are we in Cass County here?
This is Morgan County.
We're in Morgan County, yep. Okay. The lay of the land, we can see that right behind us, we look over your shoulder, it's called Oak Tree Organic Farms.
Yes.
And those big old oak trees mean something to you, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They've provided me a lot of shade over the years when it's needed.
Yeah.
So.
And that's where your crops are out there.
That's right.
Okay. What are you growing out there?
We try to grow everything we can. Right now we've got a lot of squash, cucumbers, onions, tomatoes, such as that. We've got lots more coming.
What's doing well this year?
Squash always does well. It wouldn't matter where you planted it, would always do well.
It would,
so,
huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And the tomatoes, you have a decent year on
tomatoes?
tomatoes?
Yeah, we've had a little bit of dry spell, but we've been watering real well, and they're really starting to show well. We'll see some red out there in the field when we get there. So.
I'm looking over your left shoulder, and I see this. I think you call this a tent, or I'm not sure what you call it, but this plastic enclosure that I guess organic farmers use that because they can grow things all year if they have the right kind of conditions, can't they?
Yeah, that's correct. We use them for extended. We start plants in them early. We overwinter, and we also use them for our winter production. Mm-hmm. So. And
you have some small portable ones that you can move around?
We have some that can be set up and moved one person can move them, you know, in a half hour by himself. Mm-hmm. So a little help with stringing the plastic, but everything else pretty easy.
Okay. We can look behind me over here. There's a big old barn. Of course, your dad used that for years and years and years. But just to the right of that, you can see this is some of the livestock that you have too. You got a few hogs over there now. You're going to help us understand how to grow hogs the organic way.
All right.
Okay. Now those, and you can let those pasture, can't you?
Yeah, they are on pasture, that's for sure.
All right. If you don't mind, keep those in for a while because we don't want those to get away until we get a chance to get some shots of them, okay?
Yep.
Now, there's one other thing before we cut you loose and talk to some of these experts from Lincoln Land. You actually consider yourself sort of a community farm. How is that?
We try to connect everybody we can to our farm. We have a community-supported agriculture program, and people buy into the farm, and they get a share of what's available throughout the year. There's a little bit of risk involved, as for us and for them, and that's in the agreement. Mm-hmm. So it really connects. It gives them a chance to come out and visit. They're always welcome. They can either call or email and just show up, which we have happen quite often. So.
And most of your community supporters would drop by, what, like once a week and get a bag of produce that they use all week?
It varies. We have drop-off points. Some people come out. Some people like to make it a special occasion, so they'll come out on the weekend with some family or some kids that are visiting and pick up their CSA. But we can drop it off. We even do home delivery on some that have disabilities or something like that.
You mentioned to me earlier, it's important to know your farmer.
It's very important with all the scares of food. I mean, it's in the news constantly. People have really become educated and really trying to, find out where their food comes from. And we believe that if you truly want to know, go look at it and see where it comes from. So, but yeah, the supporters are great, and it works well.
Yeah. Well, Chad, thank you. We're going to take a break, talk to some of these experts from Lincoln Land, and catch up with you a little later.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Charlene Fargo, now you instruct at Lincoln Land Community College.
I do. I'm an
nutrition, right?
Nutrition, baking, sanitation. This is my passion.
So an organic farm to you is like a little piece of paradise.
Well, it is, especially because I grew up on a farm, so this is like coming home. We had a huge garden at our house, lots of asparagus, lots of tomatoes. My mom didn't can, she did everything in the freezer, but we put up lots of stuff, and it was like a whole family affair. When we'd put up the sweet corn, everybody would be called. Everybody had a job. It was a lot of fun and good memories,
Yeah.
That's the way farm families did it.
Yeah. And people can still become a member of a farm family even though they don't have a farm.
Absolutely. And this is the best way because you don't have to do all the work and do all the weeding and go out there. But you can still have that wonderful fresh produce. Yeah. There's nothing like fresh produce from a farm.
What are you holding?
I'm holding this wonderful squash that we just picked this morning, just minutes ago. And that's the beauty of it. When you can taste something fresh like this, all the vitamins and nutrients in there, all the minerals are in there. But more than that, it just tastes so much better. I was at a restaurant over the weekend and they had these huge beefsteak tomatoes. They sliced them thick, they put fresh mozzarella on top, they drizzled balsamic vinegar, and then they had some fresh basil, and they listed all the farms where that stuff came from. Yeah. It was wonderful. It was the highlight of the meal.
And you know what's remarkable about that too? Even I could do that. I mean, it's very simple to do.
It is very simple. You could do that, Mark.
Slice
some
low-fat cheese on there, boy.
Well, mozzarella.
Mozzarella or provolone. Yeah.
That's right, and a good balsamic vinaigrette. It's not that hard.
No.
But the beauty of it is when you take it fresh from a garden, it doesn't taste like a hothouse tomato. It doesn't taste like a tomato you get in the winter. It is just bursting with flavor. That's the beauty of this whole farm to fork movement, and that's something Lincoln Land has gotten really involved in. We had a dinner out here the other night under these oak trees where everything was fresh, and it's like, it just doesn't get any better than that.
No, it doesn't. Okay, what am I holding here, boy? This is a big old hunk of beets, isn't it?
It is, and you kind of say to yourself, what would I do with beets? Well, our moms, our grandmas, they used to do those beets, maybe pickle the beets, but last year we did a project, Lincoln Land, and it was with the Salvation Army. We went to the farmers markets and we gathered some beets, we gathered some zucchini, some squash, some peppers, some kale, and you think, what would I do with kale? We made a great slaw out of it. All the vegetables were cut matchstick, and then we put them with the kale cut matchstick as well, kind of chiffonade, if you will, just kind of stringy, ribbon-like. Yeah. Okay, that'd be the best way to explain it. Then we put this wonderful dressing just like you'd have on a slaw. It was wonderful.
You know what would be good with that too? We're looking at a row of cucumbers here, and you can tell because it's got the little yellow flowers and it's got the little tendrils coming out. And we're going to find one if we can.
I got one right here.
Okay.
Look
if you would, go ahead and pull that off there.
I will. It's still got the little pricklies on it.
Oh, look, yeah, it is, and it's wet where you put it, so you know that that's just been picked. It's wet at the top.
This, you could slice that, put it in a little vinegar. Oh, it would be so good. You can dip that in some dip, like a veggie dip if you'd want to, bursting with flavor and full of nutrients. And it's like you say, well, what kind of nutrients? Okay, high in vitamin A, but it really doesn't, high in vitamin C. It doesn't matter. The key is moderation, balance, and variety so that you get all this in your diet, and that's what makes a healthy diet. The government has just come out with a new, to replace the food guide pyramid. It's called My Plate. You want it to be half fruits and vegetables, okay? Think of a plate, a round plate.
Okay.
You hold these,
I will.
And I'll make a plate,
right.
Okay? you want half of it is going to be fruits and vegetables, a quarter of it your meat and protein, and a quarter of it your whole grains. Okay, well, how are you going to do that if you don't like fruits and vegetables? Well, I challenge you, if you come and eat them fresh, you can easily fill that plate with half fruits and vegetables, tomatoes and cucumbers and squash and beets and salads and all kinds of things that just burst with flavor. And it takes you from, I don't know if I like that, to just trying it and saying, wow, I didn't know that it could be so good.
You mentioned tomatoes. Let's go to where the tomatoes are.
Okay.
Okay, Tony, we'll take a dissolve. Cute. Well, Charlene, I've got a whole salad and more in my hand, but as we look down at these, I guess these are bell peppers. Does that look
These are green bell peppers bursting with vitamins. And you know what? When you pick them, they actually, right off fresh like that, they actually taste different. They do when they're just so fresh like that. These would be great in our salad too, or in our dips or whatever. We can just build a whole big one.
You can cook with those too, because they really improve the flavor of it.
You can
That's
stuff
right.
those, and they're
What
wonderful.
would you stuff those with? As we walk toward the tomatoes over, what would you stuff a pepper with?
Okay, keeping along with the My Plate thing, we want whole grains. So instead of just doing a white rice with maybe some hamburger or some meat and some seasonings, we'd want to do a different kind of grain, like a whole grain, a brown rice. That would be good. And look at these great tomatoes. Now they're not ready yet.
Size. No, they're
but
not.
They're
but look how
going to
big
be wonderful.
they are. And they're going to be bigger than that when they turn red.
Absolutely.
That juicy, delicious dark red that they turn. The whole
You could
row
do
of
the
these.
fried green tomatoes, but I'm not really into the frying. Okay, but
in
I love that movie.
October, I do that because they're not going to turn for you anyway.
I know they're not.
Yeah.
I know, but we've got plenty of summer left that they're going to turn on us and be wonderful tomatoes. Is there anything better than, just tomatoes with a little bit of salt on it? I mean, you don't have to be a fantastic cook to do all this. All you have to do is have a little creativity and have it fresh.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We do have a fantastic cook here
We
today.
do. We
so
do.
I think
Who's
we'll get
also part of the program.
We'll get the tips from her. Thank
There
you
go.
very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Denise Perry, we just gave you a big compliment. We were talking about the ingredients out here, and Charlene was talking about, well, I could make you something really nice. And I said, well, that's great, but we have somebody here who's a professional at that.
Thank you for waiting, right?
So you're an instructor with the food production program at Lincoln Land Community College, which means you teach people how to make food taste good, right? And nutritious, of course, use nutritious ingredients.
Always want to keep the nutrition in.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and you also have a family. So a very
do.
lucky family that gets to eat your cooking. And I also challenged you, and you kind of shirked my challenge on this. I said, okay, look, we got broccoli and kale and green peppers. Make me up a fantasy dish. And you said, well, let's take them separately.
Exactly.
Why is that?
They can rely on themselves on their own. So broccoli is right here. And, it's beautiful if you just do a really simple saute with, the nutritional and the flavor boost that you get from farm fresh vegetables.
Look here.
You really have to do
Look here, you can see there's one of the buds is developing right there. And of course, it'll be big. It'll probably be about as big as my fist when he picks it. But not everybody, everybody knows they need to eat broccoli, but a lot of people just don't like it. What do you do to broccoli?
Very simple preparations, add a few simple flavor agents, some garlic, some really great olive oil, real fruity olive oil, a little crushed red pepper if you want some spice, maybe a little bit of lemon, and a nice sprinkling of some kosher salt.
And how would you cook that?
Just in a saute pan, very simple, quick cooking.
Okay,
so
in olive oil, just a little bit. Hot, real hot, or flash cook it, or just cook it kind of slow, or what?
Medium to high heat, yeah. Yeah, you want to cook vegetables as little as possible so that nutrition boost stays inside the vegetable instead of leaching out into the thyme, and you don't want, nobody likes brown broccoli, so
no, it's hard enough to take. But so would you be looking at like maybe 5 minutes of sauteing over medium heat, something like that? Okay. Now I don't really know kale much, but kale has become very popular.
It has.
And you can stand over here for me. There you go.
Young
now we
kale
can.
leaves.
Yeah, these are kale leaves, and when they pick these, they pick them from the bottom up and pick the bigger ones. Huh? So these have been picked recently.
Right.
So what do you do with this leafy critter?
You just want to remove this kind of thicker stem because it's not.
On the back there, right?
Fibrous,
okay.
But the leaves are delicious. They're a dark green leafy vegetable, so like I said, very high in nutrition content, folic acid, protein, vitamin A, And just a really quick saute, again, using the same kind of pantry staples as the broccoli.
Would you
Have
ever
it
eat
delicious.
kale like raw?
You can, yeah. You can make a kale Caesar because of its bold flavor. All you have to do is a simple preparation similar to eggplant. Just salt the kale a little bit so that liquid kind of leaches out and softens it up. And then you can rinse it in some water and toss it with your favorite vinaigrette. A Caesar dressing works great with kale because of its depth of flavor.
How long would you soak this in salt water?
About 30 minutes.
Okay, and that'll soften it up.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll try kale, and maybe I've just never soaked it. It was always kind of tough,
Right,
you
right.
know? And we've looked at these. We looked at these gorgeous peppers. I don't know if this plant has any on it or not.
There's one
That's fine.
right
Yeah,
there.
that's a small one. We were talking about, you know, you can stuff
middle.
you can stuff green peppers, and of
Right.
course they get big. They get about as big as a softball. Some of them.
Latin flavors.
And if
rely
you're
heavily
going
on
if you're going
peppers.
for flavor and for a nutritional ingredient, what would you stuff a big old pepper with?
A lot of vegetable. You could do a vegetable and grain medley. So use some tomatoes that are going to ripen up here in a little bit. Toss it with a little quinoa, which is an ancient grain, very high in protein, and you can make a fabulous vegetarian meal
I'll bet.
out of a humble stuffed pepper.
Most of us who grew up with stuffed peppers, of course, it was stuffed with hamburger,
Right,
which
right.
kind of takes the health benefits away from it,
Right,
doesn't it?
Right. Well, if you use grass-fed beef, then you still have some.
There you go. There you go. Now you mentioned tomatoes,
Uh-huh.
and you know, this time of year, tomatoes are coming in hot and heavy, and some
Yes.
people actually have too many tomatoes. Can you really cook with tomatoes? I mean, I know everybody likes them raw and they like them in salads and everything. I always found that when I cook with tomatoes, everything gets real watery. Is there a way to cook with tomatoes successfully?
Yeah, a nice fresh pasta sauce. You can cook very easily with some tomatoes. The heirloom tomatoes are packed with flavor. And also, if you have a bumper crop of tomatoes, which we all hope for, especially with those beautiful summer tomatoes, just blanching them, peeling off the skins, and then freezing them, and you can make, you know, beautiful tomato sauces all year round. So.
One thing I've noticed, and you probably feel this, you're a mother, you feed your family, you're also a cook, so affordability matters to you. And this time of year, I guess, is really kind of a boom time, isn't it, for
Right.
affordable, healthy
And,
foods.
you know, a lot of people are starting to go back to having their own home garden too, which is a very economical way to get the fresh vegetables that we all, you know, want to feed our families, and that are sometimes very cost prohibitive in the grocery stores. So home gardens are an inexpensive way to feed your family the right way.
And you know what, you can do it without a lot of work too. I mean,
Right.
now, Mr. Wallace, I mean,
Right.
he works really
Right.
hard on this.
Right.
But if you have a little plot in the back with maybe 8 or 10 or 12 plants, it's not that big a deal,
Right,
is it?
right. Yeah.
Do you have one?
I
I'm
do.
putting you on the spot.
I
What do
do.
you grow?
I grow a lot of tomatoes, peppers, I do some eggplant, kale, a Swiss chard. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for visiting
You're
with us.
welcome. Thank you so much.
Well, Chad, we're out right among your laying hens. What kind of chickens are these?
This is a mix of cinnamon queens and a off-breed of Rhode Island Red.
How did you settle on the breed of chicken that you liked?
We went with the darker colored chickens. There's some advantage as far as predators in the sky. White chickens are more visible,
Really? Hawks, etc.?
etc. Owls.
Really?
We haven't had much trouble. I don't know if that's why, but it was just one thing we thought about when we started.
Yeah. Now, being an organic farmer, you're very careful about what you feed these chickens.
That's correct.
What do you feed them?
We feed them as natural as possible. We don't use no medications. I mean, most all chicken feeds have some sort of medication in it, and we use no medications.
And what is this? What is this?
This is
comprised
just a ground mix of oats, mixed corn, various proteins, and we mix it. This is the dry form, and in order to make the feed go longer and to make nutrition easier for them to digest and go where it needs to go, we make a mash out of it by adding water.
And that's what they're in right now.
And that's
is
what
this
they're
mash,
eating right
huh?
now, yeah.
And it goes further.
It goes further.
And they don't spread it all over tarnation,
That's
right? You
right.
know what chickens do.
Yep.
And it goes further, and they seem to like it real well.
They love it real well.
Your daughter brought me 2 eggs. I said, "Well, get me an egg, will you?" So we see what it looks like. She brought me 2 and said they're different.
That's correct. We have some chickens that are just beginning to lay, And that would be this egg right here, which what we call a pullet egg. They're smaller. The one on the other side is from one of our chickens we've had for over a year.
And your community members who are part of your support network,
Right.
they buy the eggs as well.
They can. Sometimes they get them in their CSA, and a lot of times they add it on top of what they're getting.
Now, we mentioned early in the program about the hogs.
Right.
And I think you told me something very interesting about what you're having the hogs. They're actually preparing a plot of ground for you over here. Can we go over there and check them out?
Let's go look at
Okay,
them.
all right.
All right.
Chad, what are these hogs feeding on?
This is just ground corn right now.
And again, being an organic farm, you don't feed them anything that has any sort of human, or not, but any growth hormones or any of those kind of.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
This is just corn.
Yep.
And I'm holding one of your cucumbers that it's got spots on it, so it wasn't really fit. You
Right.
call this what, a third class or a third grade?
Yeah, it'd be third grade.
Third grade.
Yep.
So you're not going to sell this anyway. One nice thing about hogs is they'll eat almost anything, won't they?
They will eat anything.
If I throw this on the ground, will they go for it?
They will eat it up.
Oh my goodness, it's a battle.
Yep.
The biggest one got it, of course.
Yep.
Tell me, what breed are these?
These are just a spotted breed. We get them from a neighbor who raises them. He has the same ideas as us as far as feed, and he raises them for fairs. Kids show them at the fairs, and what they don't pick to show, we purchase from him.
And how big will these hogs get before they get slaughtered?
They'll be 250 pounds.
Wow.
At least.
Okay.
Probably a little bit more.
Will that be the end of this season? Will they get that big, or will you have to winter them over?
By November.
By November.
By November, they'll all be in the freezer.
And when will you replenish your herd?
Next spring.
Next spring.
Early next spring.
These hogs are interesting because you've found uses for hogs that some people don't have. For instance, you've got this area out here and you're letting them prepare the ground. What does that mean?
Well, hogs naturally are going to root. They're going to eat grubs. They get a lot of minerals out of the soil. Just lots of stuff in the turf that the hogs eat. And while they're eating and digging for that, they're preparing soil for us. And in this area, we're going to plant blueberries. So it takes a little bit of labor out of us. It feeds them, and it works
They're
good for
plowing the
everybody.
ground for you.
Exactly.
And they're fertilizing the ground
That's
for
true.
you.
That's
And you're
true.
going to have a big old bank of blueberry bushes in here. Good for
That's
you.
correct.
Which, of course, will be organic.
They will be.
Fantastic. You know, if you let nature recycle, it does a pretty good job all its own, doesn't it?
It's got a design, that's for sure.
Well, listen, this is part about the environment we have not talked on much, you know, but that's part of what we're talking about here is protecting the environment without letting chemicals, pesticides, etc. get in the way. And they do a pretty good job of it.
They do. They do.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for inviting us out here because this has been a great experience. And also, you know, your friends and professionals from Lincoln Land Community College and the nutrition and cooking program. It's been a good experience. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks to those folks for helping us on Local Eats. I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.